anybody in
I just want to.
We can only do what we can do.
Yeah, you gotta really get real close.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I do see somebody peeking out the window shades there.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to thank everybody for their support.
Come on out!
I can't tell you how much your support means to us. This has been quite a nightmare. It has uprooted every aspect of our lives, both personal and professionally, and your sense of support has really warmed our hearts. This is not anything that we sought out. It certainly wasn't what we expected when we got a few bunnies to try to teach our kid where money comes from, where food comes from, family farm values that we grew up with, both of us. We both have a farming background. Used to farm in Spokane. We sold out, moved to the city, onto 3 acres. Bunnies was something that we could do on a small scale and produce some meat, produce some pets, and give our kids some chores and a sense of responsibility. That's kind of the American dream, or so we thought, but apparently that's not what America is anymore. It's being regulated and being fined for something you didn't even know existed. This is a very obscure law. Most people think that it applies to pet stores. They're exempt. Humane societies are exempt. Kennels are exempt. Anyone that sells bunnies on a street corner is not, if you sell more than $500. So unbeknownst to us, there was a regulation that says that we were in violation of it. We were not informed of that until November of 2009. We had a woman visit our home unannounced. We didn't have anything to hide, so we allowed her to inspect.
That's always a mistake.
She was
always a mistake.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably was a mistake, but we weren't aware we were doing anything wrong, so we allowed her to inspect. She immediately began counting wire. She told me that the cages we purchased for meat rabbits that were supposed to accommodate rabbits up to 15 pounds, yet we had dwarfs at 2.5 pounds, was 1/4 of an inch too small. A commercially built cage by Little Giant. I'm not sure how that works, but that's what she told us.
They were 30 by 36
30 by 36 inches, but it was 1/4 of an inch too small for a 2.5 pound bunny. She told me a spot of rust on a feeder about the size of my little fingernail had to be removed and sanded. Then she tells me a 1/2 teaspoon of chaff under a feeder would have to be removed immediately. I said the first time they stick their nose in there to eat, there's going to be chaff. Well, it's got to be removed, so I blew it off. Then she asks me how we sanitized our cages. I told her we removed them to pet carriers. We used power washers, bleach and detergent if necessary, allowed them to dry in the sun completely before returning the rabbits the food and the water. I said, is that not acceptable? Well, yeah, that's fine. And I said, I hear something in your voice. Well, a lot of commercial breeders use blowtorches to burn the manure and the hair off of the cages. And I said, okay, I'm going to stop you right there and ask some questions. If a spot the size of my little finger rests on a feeder is a violation, burning the wire with a blowtorch, number 1, is against OSHA standards for wire. It puts off toxic chemicals. Number 2, you're going to tell me that all of my rusted wire now has to be replaced at $150 per roll. She refused to answer. I said, ma'am, I ask you a direct question. She says, nothing. So I told her, with that, I think we're done here. I think you probably need to leave. Well, what do you want to do about this? I said, well, I thought I was trying to be accommodating and work with you, but I can see that's impossible. Well, I can leave you an application kit. I said, okay. I said, you can do that. And guess what? She didn't have one. She said, I'll send it to you. I said, that would be fine. I said, I'll discuss it with my husband. I said, I'd really like to know, though, what's involved. I went on to let her try to tell me. Well, what do you mean what's involved? I said, well, do you have a checklist, a guideline? Is there a book that says cages have to be a certain material, a certain size, a certain dimension, barns a certain temperature? Well, no, there isn't anything like that. I said, wait, you just told me my cage was 1/4 inch too small, but there's no guidelines. What's up here? She didn't want to answer that. So basically, it's an intimidation, it's a harassment. If the inspector likes you, I guess maybe you get by. if you challenge anything, your life's going to be a nightmare. Our life was already a nightmare, apparently. We just didn't know it yet. So that's how this began. We heard nothing from her. No written citation, no warning, just a verbal, I'm coming to inspect, here I am, not even a business card. She leaves, didn't leave me anything. In January of 2010, we received a phone call. It was from a person with APHIS. He told us that he wanted a face-to-face meeting. I asked him what it was about. He told us it was about selling of the bunnies and that we needed to meet. I asked him if I refused, what then? He said that would be very unwise. I asked if we needed an attorney. He told me that would probably be good. So we sought out to find an attorney that had a farming background. Not an easy thing to do. But we did find Richard Anderson, Branson West. He agreed to come and represent us. We set the meeting to take place after hours at our business in Nixa. Approximately an hour before this meeting was to take place, I left to go make the nightly deposit. When I came back about 10 minutes later, all of the other area businesses were closed. Sitting in the parking lot just north of our business is the USDA APHIS inspector sitting sideways spying on our business an hour before our meeting was to take place. So we come in, we meet with our attorney. He comes in, he introduces himself, and he says, I'm not here to interpret the law, justify the law, explain the law. I'm here to conduct an investigation and ask the questions. As his questions rolled on, we answered them truthfully and honestly. Anytime we would ask a question, I'm not here to interpret the law, justify the law, explain the law. I'm here to conduct an investigation. That was his mantra over and over and over. We asked him what we needed to do to rectify this. Did we need to become licensed? Did we need to close the doors? He says, I'm not here to tell you to do anything. I'm to conduct an investigation. I said, well, okay. If we close the doors, will you leave us alone? Well, it might look good to the people the review panel. And we said, when will we hear something from you? 4 to 6 weeks. He leaves. We asked our attorney, what would your recommendation be? He said, guys, he says, I think I'd close up shop. Immediately, the very next morning, I put our items, both stock, both cages, both equipment, on Craigslist. I made sure to trade them, not sell them, because I didn't want to be in this $500 zone again. We got rid of them, I would say, everything within a week. You know, you can't always just liquidate something really quickly.
You sell it 10 cents on the dollar,
you know,
pretty fast.
So we got rid of everything as quickly as we possibly could. We heard nothing. In 8 weeks, we called them, the office in Colorado Springs. They told us that our file had been forwarded to Maryland, which is the federal office. She said, Mr. Dollarhite, your file's on my desk. I'm not finished with it, but I can tell you, we are going to prosecute you and make an example of you. Ma'am, what does that mean? It means you will hear from us when I'm ready for you to hear from us, and we will let you know. And she cut him off. That was in approximately March or April of 2010. We received nothing, absolutely nothing, until we received a certified letter dated April 7th. We received it April 19th, telling us we are in violation of this code and that we owed $90,643. By the way, you can conveniently pay it on pay.gov with your credit card, as if it were a parking ticket. So, sick to our stomach, in total disbelief, we call our attorney.